Preacher's daughter makes a return and she does it with a big risk. AJ, it's almost deja vu. We just saw this happen. Robert Whittaker versus Dricus du Plessis. And what did we say the whole time? The favorite, the person who's a former champion, who has been hovering around the title picture the whole time. There's no way the up-and-comer is going to usurp them. Well, we were wrong there, AJ. This is the difficult part about handicapping and wagering fights, is you cannot let emotions factor in, and you cannot let a different fight with a similar background bleed into this one. So we need to talk about it. The Preacher's daughter, if you really look at her losses, controversial one against Ketlin Vieira, we talked about that one, Amanda Nunes, Cyborg, Jermaine Durandamy, and Valentina Shevchenko. Those are her only losses since 2016. What case does Mayra Bueno Silva, who has some good wins, right? She's powerful. She's a new face in the division. She's got a new name. What case does she have to really putting it on the Preacher's daughter in a way that a lot of other fighters haven't been able to?
I think the big comparison or familiarity that Mayra Bueno Silva is looking to exploit, especially in the narrative going forward, is the jiu-jitsu, is the ground game. A lot of those fighters you're saying, Nunez, Valentina, even JDR, a little less of JDR, but the ground game. They have very strong ground game and very powerful. So if Bueno Silva can take this fight to the ground, control, be the pressure fighter, never let Holly get those ones and twos get going like we know she can, then Mayra Bueno Silva has that instinct, and I think, or has the instincts to win. I do think she also has that drive and that instinctual presence to be that pressure fighter. But can she do it, Derek, on those ones and twos and flying down the pipe? Will she be able to avoid the head kick of Holly Holm?
I mean, it's a tough ask, bro, because that's what I was kind of thinking. I was like, an aggressive fighter like Mayra Bueno Silva kind of lends into the style of a Holly Holm. Holly Holm wants that. People forget, like, she wasn't just a legendary boxer before she came into the UFC, but she comes into the UFC and becomes a legendary kickboxer, right? Like, she took off Ronda Rousey's head the whole entire nine. But we know that as that kind of blitz in, blitz out, point style fighting, Holly Holm is one of the best to do it. But AJ, I need to bring up a really big point right here, and I think this is the reason why we don't have a lot of consensus picks for this week's card. Scoring, judging, that's one thing we cannot control, and that's one thing that we have seen go back and forth. There's no consistency these days, right? But we have noted that the point fighters, the boring point fighters, quote unquote, according to Chelsea Chandler, who is Holly Holm, Norma Dumont, Jun Young Park, right? Like, all of these people, they're considered boring. And when you have an exciting pressure fighter who is landing the more damaging shots, which is what the criteria is more and more based off of, we're finding more and more that they're winning. So does that not cause any alarm for you? Do you not say, like, yeah, Holly Holm win by decision, layup, but almost too much of a layup to where, you know what I mean? Silva, I think she could really just muddy the situation. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree with you, Derek. If this was maybe, 3-4 years ago, I would say the technique point fighting wins all the day. When Stephen Thompson was reigning, not supreme, but reigning near the top, that's exactly what it was. That era of judging has seemed to switch over now, where if you're a walking punching bag, you still get the control time. Even though you're not doing as much technical overall damage, you have the bigger shots. People are making the expressions, the oohs, the ahs of the crowd. You're kind of getting in favor of the judges now. So it's no longer a layup for this fight with Holly Holm. Now, like you said, Mayra Bueno Silva can make this one messy, put a little defense in there. And I do agree, she will probably have the strength advantage, but can she use that strength against the speed? That's what I think Holly Holm is going to be best at adapting right here, is staying on the outside, skirting the outside, and hitting her when she can't be hit. Looking at even the Ketlin Vieira fight, the Ketlin Vieira split. Holly Holm's face, not that touched up. And I think it's going to be how this fight is as well. Her face, not going to be touched up at all. But again, the judges, the one thing we can't even predict, Derek, I feel like if there was a year-long prediction of how the fighting, like the judges was get going, that would be the most wash out of everybody. Nobody will predict that one.
No, not at all. Here, I'm going to ask you a couple rapid-fire questions right now, and all I want back from you is true or false, all right? Are you ready? All right, brother. Mayra Bueno Silva gets Holly Holm to the ground. Does Holly Holm get up, true or false?
True.
Okay. Mayra Bueno Silva gets initiated in the clinch, the Holly Holm clinch, where she puts her up against the cage, which she's very prone to do. Mayra Bueno Silva capitalizes on the clinch opportunities, true or false?
True.
This fight goes more than 3 rounds. Holly Holm is firmly in the driver's seat, true or false?
True.
Mayra Bueno Silva finishes the fight with a lower amount of significant and total strikes, so significant strikes and total strikes, and can still earn a victory, true or false?
True.
This is what I'm saying right here. This is what muddies this. So, folks, anybody who thinks, oh, this main event, I shouldn't watch it. This is going to obvious. We know what's going to. No, you don't know what's going to happen. I'll tell you that much. This is a very unpredictable fight, man. Mayra Bueno Silva is the more well-rounded fighter. I think you can very fairly argue. But Holly Holm is an extreme specialist in her craft of stand-up and clinch work. And that's where it gets tough. Let's talk about some of these props, AJ. Plus 600 TKO for Holly Holm. Respectable. Understandable. Plus 1,800 TKO for Mayra Bueno Silva. Out of all of these fighters in the top 5, I think she's one of the hardest hitting fighters here, or top 10, excuse me. I think she's one of the hardest hitting fighters. Why is this line so crazy?
Yeah, that's an interesting one too, because I definitely had the club, maybe not club and sub, but the ground and pound of Mayra Bueno Silva being a very dangerous thing, and she can hit you really hard when you're not seeing it. So that's an interesting thing right there. I mean, we all know Holly Holm's not a submission specialist, so that one across the board makes sense. But plus 18 for the TKO on Mayra Bueno Silva is definitely a head scratcher.
And you look at Mayra Bueno Silva's last fight against Lena Landsberg, who was what, the queen of elbows or something crazy like that, right? She got nasty elbows, nasty striking, nasty boxing, right? If you saw the way she walked her down, pinned her up against the cage, and then she would just kind of wing big body shots, everything was big, right? I think Holly Holm can capitalize on that, but that's where I get confused, to where it's like those big shots. How does that not lend itself to some form of a TKO? I'm just confused here. Is it rightfully so being confused, or do you think that the odds makers know something we don't?
No, it's rightfully so being confused, Derek, because as much as Holly Holmes is that technician, she has been in positions where she gets hurt. And Mayra Bueno Silva has the power to make her hurt. So that's where I agree with you. This one's not just black and white, layup or not. It's a lot muddier than you were saying.
And the last point that I have here, and this is the part where this gets you in trouble, watching too many pre-fight interviews and stuff like that. But Holly Holm is always generally pretty robot machine-like. Not too much emotion that goes into it. But it very much was, well, this is the opponent they gave me. I don't care. Yeah, I guess it's a big risk for me, whatever. And then you interview Mayra Bueno Silva, and they say, what do you want to do to Holly Holm? I want to hurt her. And it's like, okay, these are two drastic differences. Do we see a repeat of Whitaker du Plessis in this matchup based off of one very hungry fighter and another fighter who has always felt that they're only one fight away from a title shot?
Well, even Bobby Knuckles was saying he wasn't underestimating DDP, but it seems to be that way. And I'm hoping Holly Holm won't. But Derek, there's always that little bit of rational or irrational thinking when one fighter is just like, yeah, it's just another scrap. It is what it is. And the other fighter is hungry. It's hard not to bet with a hungry fighter.
Yep, fair enough, man. And with that being said, let's give our picks. AJ, how are you seeing this fight?
I'm going Holly Holm, Derek, and I'm actually going with decision. I think the longer this fight goes, the more it favors Holly Holm. Hopefully the judges will be consistent that night. We'll see. Holly Holm by decision. What about you, Derek? Who are you going with?
I'm rolling with the upset here, man. There's something in the water. I know it's almost sacrilege to go against the preacher's daughter if you're a New Mexico native such as yourself. However, I am granted the luxury of being a California guy. So let me rock with Brazil right here. Mayra Bueno Silva. And I'm calling it on the head. Controversial split decision victory right here. Give it to me, baby. You know what I'm saying? All right, folks. That is your main event. I promise it's going to be a good one. Y'all need to tune in.